Hi friends, it's Pastor Teresa, and I wanted to share with you just a few things that you'll find in my Friday note for September 13th. So earlier this week, I watched the presidential debate, and I know I'm not alone. And based on conversations I've had with some of you, I also know that I'm not alone in carrying emotions of worry and fear in these days. But you know what? Here's the thing. As intense as my emotions of worry and fear can be at times, they are not the whole of who I am. I also feel at other times joy and hope. I have moments of deep connection that are meaningful with other people, and I have experiences of awe and wonder. A lot of those meaningful moments and experiences of wonder and awe and those feelings of hope and joy, they often take place right here at University UMC. I'm so grateful for you, church. The founder of Methodism, John Wesley, had 3 general rules that were a guide for the living of his days, and they go like this. Rule number 1, do good. Rule number 2, do no harm. And number 3, attend upon the ordinances of God, which is maybe 18th century language for saying stay in love with God by committing to things like weekly worship or other spiritual disciplines throughout the month. I find these 3 rules helpful for the living of all of our days, but perhaps especially in tenuous and tumultuous seasons in our world and country. Those words can be especially helpful. I think they can also be challenging at times. It was earlier this week that I also came across this prayer from Sojourners magazine, and I'm going to share it with you right now. It prays, God who listens, grant us the ability to fully hear one another during this time of division and anger. Open our hearts and ears to those around us, and help us approach conversations with your infinite love. Amen. I'm holding on to that prayer in the days ahead because it just might help me to do good and to do less harm and to stay in love with God. You can find that prayer in the emailed version of this Friday note. So gathering for fellowship and worship each week, small group gatherings and service opportunities at the church, all of that can help ground us and center us in the living of these days. And it is true that this Sunday we culminate our season of intentional focus on service by a commitment to service portion in our worship service. Many of you have signed up earlier in the year at the ministry fair for volunteer opportunities. A host of you are already engaged in giving of yourself and your time to committee work and other volunteers opportunities in the church. Well, this Sunday, you'll hear me in my sermon speak to the importance of balancing our doing good with self-care, or what some might even call soul care. Because it is true that rolling up our sleeves to help with a good cause can be good for our hearts and souls. We've experienced this, haven't we? We can affirm that a life of service leads to moments of joy and hope. But it is also true that sometimes some of us can get so caught up in our doing that we can unintentionally cause harm. I'll give you a personal experience. It was years ago that my spiritual director gently asked me if my compulsive doing and being busy just might be causing distance in some of my relationships. My relationship with loved ones, with God, and even with myself. Now, I'm not sharing this because you need to be worried about me, and I'm not worried about any of you. But I am sharing this because life is full and busy, and the news is often not full of good news. And God God is looking for people like you and me to be people of peace and possibility. In that visit with my spiritual director all those years ago, she shared with me a writing by spiritual leader Thomas Merton. It was a writing where he cautions us about the rush and pressure of modern life, and I'm going to share it with you now. He writes, "There is a pervasive form of contemporary violence to which the idealist most easily succumbs: activism and overwork. The rush and pressure of modern life are a form, perhaps the most common form, of its innate violence. To allow oneself to be carried away by a multitude of conflicting concerns, to surrender to too many demands, to commit oneself to too many projects, to want to help everyone in everything, is to succumb to violence. The frenzy of our activism neutralizes our work for peace. It destroys our own inner capacity for peace, and it destroys the fruitfulness of our own work because it kills the root of inner wisdom, which makes work fruitful." Those can sound like rather harsh words, but I take them to heart and remind myself of them every once in a while so that I might have a life of service indeed, but a life that is also full of balance, taking time for rest, for soul care, and to remember that we are more than what we feel. We are more than what we do. And you are valued and loved simply because you are. Friends, I'm so grateful to be a part of ministry with you here at UUMC. See you Sunday, and what a joy to be your pastor.